You pervert! You broke me all over! I didn't touch you at all. What's up, guys? This is Motordaffodil64 coming to you with a brand new episode of the demo for Love, Money, Rock and Roll. This game is getting really good so far, but I'm definitely curious about a lot of things. Even though we're day 2 into the 5 days that this demo is supposed to extend, we've gotten a hint at the love part. We've gotten a hint at the money part because they go to this very elite school and money seems to be a topic that comes up quite often. We haven't gotten to anything involving the rock and roll part, and that's what I'm most curious about. How is music going to end up playing into this whole thing? We kind of found out that Nick plays the bass, but that's it. It got mentioned very briefly, and I'm wondering, I'm assuming this is supposed to be more music-themed of a visual novel, dating sim, whatever you want to call it, and we haven't really gotten into the music yet. Then again, we're just at the very beginning of the second day, so even if we don't find out anything about the music today, I'm sure this will still be a very interesting school day because the first school day got split into 2 episodes because there was just so much going on. Alright, without further ado, let's start where we left off. Judging by the clock, the bell was less than a minute away. Catherine's desk was empty. I turned to Michael, who sat next to her. Oh, he's cute. I'm gonna say that about every guy that comes onto the screen, aren't I? And girl. I think even his best friend is cute in his own way. Did Catherine, the new girl, did she go somewhere? Don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. Why? Never mind, no reason. Bummed, I sat down at my desk. Could she have somehow noticed that I opened her notebook? No way. Catherine wasn't even in the classroom at the time. Did someone tell her? How long ago did she leave? I'm telling you, I don't know. Are you talking about the new girl? I think she went to see the principal. A classmate had overheard our conversation. Uh-oh. Thanks. The chair beneath me felt like it was on fire. That's how badly I wanted to run after her. But to what end? What was I going to tell her? As the bell sounded, my feet seemed to acquire a will of their own. They carried me to the door, then past the teacher, and out into the hallway. I turned the corner at a run and stopped. What the hell was I doing? Why all this? The school had gone silent, frozen still, as though in awe of the inescapable might of pure knowledge. I was slowly tiptoeing through the empty halls towards the principal's office. If I were to run into one of the teachers now, I would have to explain myself all over again. On the other hand, it would be no better if I showed up at his office myself. Speaking of which, here it was. I pressed an ear to the door, but no sound was coming from the other side. Either they were playing the silent game, or Catherine was not there. So what next? It was too late to go back to class. I wandered the empty hallways and didn't even notice how I ended up in the old wing. Our school had been repeatedly rebuilt since it first opened doors right after the war, with new buildings added on as old ones fell into decay. Inefficient, if you asked me. Why not tear down the old structure first and build a new one in its place? Theoretically, there shouldn't have been anyone in this wing, but suddenly I hear music. Yay, music! Good sign, I think. We'll find out. A guitar. The sound was coming from what, judging by the plaque, was the old music room. I opened the door a crack. Ooh, blonde girl I've forgotten the name of already. That's not good. Ha! None other than Ellie Kobayashi. There, that's her name. I totally remembered it. Of all people, she was the last one I expected to find here. She was doing a fine job playing, though. The tune was nice, and the execution was equally good. Music, at least, was one area that I knew a thing or two about. Ellie herself seemed to be glowing with happiness, looking nothing like the prim princess whom I encountered in the principal's office that morning. Cool though this lyrical digression was, I certainly couldn't let a chance by this slip by. Like this slip by. Bleh. Well, well, well. And who do we have here? Oh god, her face. Oh, if this music in the back is like her theme, I love it. The guitar went abruptly mute. My applause was the only sound interrupting the silence that had descended on the place. Oju-sama, I did not know that you played a guitar, too. Many emotions flitted across her face. Embarrassment, surprise, annoyance, resentment. You... Please, pay no attention to me. Carry on. You! What are you doing here? I followed a beautiful siren song, but I could never have imagined it would be you, Oju-sama. She's like shaking with anger. Enough! Ellie blurted out, stood up abruptly, and froze as if not knowing what to do next. Hey, come on, don't take offense. I just didn't realize you played a guitar. Somehow I don't associate you with this instrument. Now, a violin, maybe. I can play violin too, she cut in. Really? Well, that's cool. And why aren't you in class? It's no mystery why I'm skipping. What about yourself? I'm not skipping. We had a break. All right. I smirked. You don't have to justify yourself to me. I'm not justifying myself. You, on the other hand, should watch your behavior. What were you doing at the principal's office this morning? I came for a cup of tea. In any case, it's none of your business. I wasn't trying to be rude, but that's exactly how it came out. Actually, it is my business, seeing as my grandfather, I'm aware. She gave me a surprised look. What, is it a secret? No, of course not. Even if you are... Suddenly, we heard voices in the hallway. Hide! Ellie whispered anxiously. Why? It's a break for you, and I'm used to it. I said sardonically, albeit in a lower voice. She didn't answer, but was looking at me pleadingly. She must have had her reasons. We're gonna, hide in a closet together or something? Because, I don't know, that would be cute. Uh-oh. I really thought for a second my game had froze. Let's hide. It sounds fun. Very well, except I don't see where we could hide here. In here! Ellie grabbed my hand and dragged me to a small door, which I had missed initially. The door opened into a cramped utility closet. Called it. What, just like this? I hesitated. The closet was definitely not roomy enough for 2 people. Get in already! However, she clearly thought otherwise because next thing I knew, she literally shoved me inside before stepping in herself. Yep, of course there's gonna be a cute image. Figures. Great, we were now packed in like sardines. And this place reeked. Yet, perceptible above the stench of dampness, moldiness, and dust was the sweet aroma of Ellie's perfume. A killer combination, to say the least. The classroom door opened, and several people entered. I think I heard something. You must have misheard, Kiyama-sensei. The principal was talking to one of the teachers. I'm not hearing things. I may be getting on in years, but I'm still more than capable. Heavens no, Kiyama-sensei. I didn't mean anything of the sort. Anyhow, this ramshackle place shouldn't have been torn down long ago. A third voice joined the conversation. This ramshackle place, as you call it, the principal let out a sigh so loud I could hear it clearly even from the closet. I remember arriving here as a young teacher, right after the war. Traded in my rifle for a pointer, you could say. Chalk taking the place of ammunition. Who would have guessed that our principal was so sentimental? I shifted my gaze towards Ellie. She turned red like a boiled lobster, her breathing becoming rapid and irregular. An awkward situation, to be sure. Just because she played the guitar didn't necessarily mean she had lots of experience in the area of... well, you know. I don't, actually. But who was I to judge? Yes, I'd gone out with Catherine, but I'd gotten somewhat used to her, whereas here was a completely different girl standing next to me. And by next, I mean right up against me. My heart started beating faster, and I gulped loudly. Ellie gave me a frightened look. I made a face that was supposed to mean quiet. She seemed to have understood. Meanwhile, the principal continued his oration. And after that, all of that, you talk of, this is our cultural heritage. It should be made into a museum. Certainly, Kiyama-sensei, but let's go now. We have a meeting coming up. Yes, forgive me. I got a bit carried away. The moment that the door closed behind them, Ellie came flying out of the closet. I stepped out after her. I had to say something. It was a bit tight in there. She looked at me, dumbfounded. Tight? Tight? You pervert! You groped me all over! I didn't touch you at all. You groped me with your eyes then. You don't think I could see it? Feel it? Calm down already, would you? How can you grope someone with your eyes? And anyway, it was your idea to hide in there. Yes, but, well, that's all there is to it. Ellie looked sad now, and she lowered her gaze. I suppose it's unbefitting a young lady to behave like this, isn't it? She smiled sadly. Well, I'm not the person to give advice on these matters, but for what it's worth, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a guitar. You must enjoy music a lot, huh? Yes. This time, her smile was more genuine. Then I don't see a problem. Just then, a distant bell announced it was break time. Alright, I gotta go. See you. Her final parting smile was utterly disarming. I was left standing alone inside an empty music classroom of the empty old wing. What a strange girl. This whole musical interlude made me forget entirely the reason I had wound up here in the first place. I'd been looking for Catherine. I had absolutely no desire to go back to class, where I could expect another scolding. Simply skipping was bad enough, but to have run out of the classroom right in front of the teacher, no thank you. So that means going home? I managed to slip out of the building unnoticed, and here I was, free as a wind, strolling down a sidewalk in one of Tokyo's central districts. I just wanted to chill out. This whole day has been a waste. The only thing I achieved was determining that Catherine had not written yesterday's note. The note. Unpleasant thoughts crept into my head. But if she didn't write it, who did? What if it wasn't a prank? Just what was going on? More had happened to me in the past day and a half than had over the course of the preceding year and a half. That entire time, I hadn't really socialized with anyone except maybe Himitsu. Well, add to that Kyosuke and occasionally Michael. Now, Catherine was back, and there was Kagome and Ellie. What next? Was I going to turn into a magical girl? As if by chance, I ended up near a familiar bar. A couple rounds of beer were an absolute must right now. I'd relax, clear my head. Drinking beer when you're supposed to be in high school. Bad boy. The inside wasn't crowded, which made sense for this time of day. People were supposed to be either at work or at school. Like in that joke about the 3-story building and the hurricane, which I have no clue what that means. Even though I wasn't a stranger here, I always had a fake passport on the ready. A classmate whose father worked in law enforcement had hooked me up at one point. Oops. Sorry. Oh, I don't want to hit the thing. Let's go. There. Sorry. There were lots of students at our school who had these passes to the adult life. How would you prove it wasn't real? A document was a document, especially when some insolent snot was shoving it in your face. Not to mention that the bar's owner was Russian. Chuckling, he usually told people that he used to be a pirate who got shipwrecked off the coast of Japan. That was a tall tale, of course. Most likely he was just a regular immigrant like my parents. I sat down at the counter and ordered a beer. Hey, Kolya, what's up? You're early today. Yeah, it's just the way it worked out. You aren't going to get in trouble at school, are you? You know how they're strict about these things here. I giggled nervously. Okay, I see. It's none of my business. A good bartender is invariably a good psychologist. It is almost a qualification for the job. Beer at this place was served in pint-sized mugs, which made me very happy. Squealing with pleasure after downing a tiny glass in one gulp was not my thing. Yuck. I took a large draught. Catherine's back. Bartender raised his eyebrows and asked with unfeigned surprise, "And what are you going to do now?" At times, I wondered if showing empathy to customers was something more than just a professional skill for him. What can I do? She hasn't been overeager to talk. Neither have I. At any rate, I'm certainly not going to throw myself at her. And why has she come back? She says because of her mother's work. I suppose that's the case. She wouldn't come back by herself, would she? Most likely not. So I'm in this weird spot now. You know how they say life is like a zebra, a black stripe, followed by a white stripe, then a black one again, then a white one again. Yep, and then the ass. Okay, that's good. Why isn't that expression still around? That's a great expression. We both laughed. You know what, Kolya? Don't get down, he said encouragingly. You still have your whole life ahead of you. The two of you will make up 100 times over before the end. And if not, you'll find yourself another girl. Look at how many of them are around. The bartender spread out his arms, inviting apprehensive looks from the few schoolgirls nestled at a table in the furthest corner of the room. Thanks for the comforting words. There's so much else besides that anyway. Life is in full swing, and each swing hits you on the head. Jeez, did you keep a glossary of sayings under that counter? The bar door flew open, and a group of young people entered. Having immediately recognized among them the punks from the day before, I instinctively buried my face in the mug. Was I scared? So it seemed. They sat down at a table and ordered beer and cocktails for the girls. You know them? The bartender asked quietly, leaning in towards me. I wouldn't say I know them, but we've met. I gave them the occasional sidelong glance. I wondered if I should get up and leave. Wouldn't that look cowardly, though? Then again, to whom? They hadn't even noticed me. No sooner did I think that than one of the guys got up and walked over to the counter. Oh god, this hairdo. Hey, I know you. If you say so, I said as calmly as possible without even sparing him a glance. I think you don't know who you're dealing with, Gaijin. I'm not dealing with anyone. So it wasn't you who punched my friend in the face yesterday? If it was me, he'd had deserved it. Really? Then how about we step outside for a little chat? I looked at the bartender, but he only shrugged. Some empathy, damn it. Alright, let's step out. What else could I do? Really? This is happening? Half a minute later, we were standing in an alley behind the bar. Why does it look suddenly way darker? A couple older guys joined the school kids. Are you kidding me? Where did they even come from? Not so tough now, are you? Said the one I punched yesterday. That'll teach him to stand up for whores. I looked at the girl. Compared to her, Kangome was Mother Teresa. Well, what next? Gonna beat me, are you? 4 against 1? That commands some respect. What happened to the code of honor? The Yakuza have one. I sneered at the largest guy among them. You there, you've definitely got the mugshot for a thug. The older ruffians clenched their teeth, their expressions changing. What did you say? Let's get it over with already. A thought flashed through my mind. What if I struck first? That way, at least, I would retain a smidgen of self-respect. Probably didn't get the chance, did he? But I had no time to decide, as a strong blow to my back threw me to the ground. That was low. Their blows hit hard, but they did not go on for long. I curled up into a ball, covering my head with my arms. It hurt. Poor guy. By the time I recovered my senses, those bastards had vanished without a trace. I got up slowly and felt myself all over. Nothing was broken, it seemed. My face was mostly intact as well, except for a black eye. I returned to the bar and sat down in the same seat. I no longer felt like carrying a cordial conversation with the bartender. Although, what could he have done? Stand at my side and fight? Call the police? Nonsense. Hey, he pointed off to the side with his eyes. I turned my head. Sitting just a few feet from me was Catherine. Ooh. Well, hi, I guess, I said a little while later, after waiting for her to open the conversation. Fat chance of that happening. Hi. Catherine replied indifferently. Aw, these guys are kind of cute. I shifted to a closer seat, while she ordered a cocktail for herself. What's with that face? Nothing serious. She wasn't buying it. I fell. Face first onto the concrete several times in a row. Yep, it got lucky this time, but next time, victory will be mine. Is that so? Said Catherine apathetically. So, are you also missing school? I had to start the conversation in the most neutral way possible. Also? She looked at me askance. Well, it's nothing new to me. I guess it isn't. I heard you went to the principal. Maybe I did. What of it? The tone of her voice didn't change, but her eyes flashed. Katya, I don't want to start everything up again. Then don't. I'm not. Or was I? Just put yourself in my shoes. How would you be reacting? Wouldn't you be asking the same questions? What questions? Fine, I understand you're here because of your mother's work. But this particular school, why? What, am I getting in your way? Catherine was sipping on her cocktail with an expression of absolute indifference. All signs of yesterday's emotional storm were gone. No, of course not. It's just when I think about how we parted back then. That's all in the past. You don't really think that I should have chosen a different school or changed my life in any way just because of you, do you? Why would I do that? Simply to avoid running into you in extra time? That's not what I was thinking. She was right, actually. I had no comeback. But she was right only if she really didn't feel anything towards me right now. Everything pointed towards this being the case, but I just couldn't believe, didn't want to believe, that she could be so cruel. So, everything's alright? Of course. Then we can remain friends. A barely perceptible smirk appeared on Catherine's face. Do you want us to? Why not? Past is the past. We have to move on, go on living. You sound like someone with PTSD. That's when I started getting worked up. It's all in the past for me as well, if that's what you mean. Is it? Good. Great. I turned away, pretending to study the menu. Was I ought to get up and leave? That would be it. I'd have to forget all about her for sure. Damn it. Was I really still hoping for something? Each time Catherine hurt me more and more, but like a mindless gnat, I kept slamming against the glass, as if trying to prove something to someone. In the course of this year and a half, I had become so accustomed to living with memories of her that now, when she was so close, I simply couldn't let go of her. These memories seemed like my only hope, the only thing holding me back from doing something foolish and fatal. Was I thinking of something specific? Unlikely. But I was hoping, naturally. I see you're not wasting any time. Catherine gave me a surprised look. Nothing was worse than indifference. Better if she got mad at me. I snatched the cocktail out of her hands and said snidely, "Getting an early start, are we?" As I raised the glass to my mouth, I heard Catherine's indifferent voice somewhere in the background. It's non-alcoholic. It really was. Sorry. I set the glass back down on the counter. You, on the other hand, have kept to your habits, I see. What do you mean? Her eyes shot over to the empty beer mug, which I had tried to move as far away as possible. Gosh darn it, bartender. It's been a rough day. Yeah? How so? Are you really interested? Just keeping up the conversation. Or would you rather that I ignored you? I sighed and answered. I was called into the principal's office. Yep, same reason as always, missing school. Well, you know me. Then there was also a curious episode with a certain Oju-sama. Your new girlfriend? Are you mocking me? No, just keeping up the conversation, I told you. If I'm disturbing you, I can leave. I don't have a girlfriend. Nor have I ever... I added in a half-whisper. I see. And how's Himitsu doing? If you're so interested, you could visit her and ask. I don't believe you've had a falling out with her. Perhaps I will go see her. Catherine responded vaguely and glanced towards the entrance. Was she about to leave? Something stung on the inside. I wanted her to stay. Even if she was going to mock me. Himitsu is fine. I don't even know what else to tell you. Same as always, basically. Same as always, is she? She drawled. Are you surprised that someone can actually treat me normally? Of course not. I'm happy for Himitsu, and I'll definitely visit her if I get the chance. But now I need to go. She set the unfinished cocktail down on the counter and stood up. Alright, see you at school. Catherine nodded and exited the bar. Dang, bro, you took a beating. Don't even start. How about a drink on the house? Did he want to make it up to me? No, thanks. I think I've had enough for today. I left the bar and stretched. As expected, the bruises were aching. If the past couple of days of my life resembled some dumb manga from Kiyosuke's collection, my encounters with Catherine felt more like a soap opera. A vicious, sticky, dark brew with a beginning but with no end. How long would this go on? In less than a year, I was going to graduate, and then what? My dad's savings weren't going to last long. I would need to get a job. Thoughts of higher education didn't even cross my mind. But what skills did I possess? Did I want to toil interminably day after day like the Japanese? Did you know there is even a special word in the Japanese that means death from overwork? Questions, questions. Doesn't surprise me. If anyone's going to have a word for it, the Japanese would. And I mean that with the utmost respect. It was getting late. I'd been wandering aimlessly around the city for a number of hours, occasionally stepping inside stores or just window shopping. I was killing time, killing yet another day of my life. It was completely dark by the time I arrived at my house. The lights were on inside. I immediately remembered yesterday's note, and a light shiver traveled down my spine. No, that was ridiculous. An assassin waiting for a victim inside a house with the lights turned on? Still, logical or not, somebody was obviously inside. I carefully opened the door and saw women's shoes in the hallway. Himitsu. I should have guessed right away. Who else had any need of me? Hi, I said carelessly, entering the kitchen. Himitsu was sitting at a set table. She had apparently been waiting for some time. Nico-kun, where have you been? I was worried. If a moment ago I might have been glad to see her, all that went out the window now. Not another interrogation. Oh, what happened to you? She jumped up from her chair when she noticed my black eye. Nothing serious. I ran into some robbers, made short work of them, but one got me in the eye. Stop talking nonsense. It's no nonsense. You want to see the police report? She pouted but calmed down, having probably realized that I was fine. I asked Kiyosuke-kun, and he said you weren't present for the last few lessons. So I wasn't. What of it? I snapped back. Nothing. It's just so much has happened lately that I was worried. Why would you worry about me? Did you think I was going to go drown myself? No, I didn't. Nothing much has happened anyway. I was about to add not to you anyway, but stopped myself at the last second. After all, Himitsu had done nothing wrong. Meanwhile, she was looking at me expectantly. I had to tell her something. I debated whether I should mention Catherine. It's not like it's a secret or anything, right? We didn't do anything objectionable. Still, maybe Himitsu didn't need to know about this. I don't know what to choose. Crap. Oh, you know what? I feel like we've kind of picked a lot of things that are very against Himitsu lately. So maybe I should just lie to her this once. I was just going to say it couldn't hurt, but it's lying. Of course it could hurt. We will take the risk. Let's just lie. I just walked around. There was no need to tell her, on second thought, because really, what was the point? The less you know, the better you sleep. This entire time? Well, yeah, why? Nothing. It's just... Himitsu must have realized I was lying because she turned sad. As was to be expected, but I didn't feel ashamed at all. Alright, sit down and eat. The dinner's cold, of course, but you only have yourself to blame. I was, in fact, hungry as hell. We ate dinner in silence, without talking, without the TV, and without even looking at each other. I could almost feel the change in the air from the tension. It was one thing for me to stay silent, but why was Himitsu keeping quiet? Just because I lied about Catherine? After so many years, Himitsu had come to know me very well, so she knew that there were times where it was better to remain silent, and times where it was better to do the opposite. So what was she hoping to achieve now? She knew I wasn't a fan of small talk, but the silence was becoming unbearable. How was school? Fine. That's it? Just fine? Nothing happened to Saya-chan? No. Why do you ask? I set down the chopsticks and leaned back in my chair. Probably because you've been quiet the entire dinner. I'm not quiet. I mean, not on purpose. Himitsu got flustered. Then what is it? She was obviously working up the courage to continue. These sort of conversations had always been difficult for her. Because I was worried. Did you even check the time? You could have called at least. Called? Called where? Here, she replied in a faltering voice. How was I supposed to know you'd be here? We aren't yet living together, last I checked. Maybe that's unfortunate, she mumbled softly. I pretended not to hear it. The conversation had clearly taken a wrong turn. Alright, you know what? I'm very tired today. You head home and I'll do the dishes. But I'll see you tomorrow. Himitsu hung her head and stood up from the table. Good night. When the door closed behind her, I breathed a sigh of relief. Right now, I absolutely needed some alone time. I felt as though trapped between two fires, or even 3 or 4. A veritable ring of fire that was slowly but surely closing in on me. And how was I acting? Sluggishly and indifferently, like a decrepit old man who had long since stopped caring about his life. On the other hand, there was Catherine, whom I simply couldn't pull out of my mind. On the other, there was Himitsu, who clearly wasn't happy to see Catherine back. Then there was also the note, the new acquaintances, my non-existent plans for the future, and the future itself, shrouded in a thick haze of uncertainty. I stretched out in bed and remembered Ellie. Even if the closet episode felt like it had been ripped straight out of some tacky manga, it had still been a pleasant one. What if Ellie could help with the note somehow? No doubt, she had good connections. As for Himitsu and Catherine, come what may, perhaps things would resolve themselves. Thinking these thoughts, I fell asleep. I was woken up by the telephone. What time was it? I have a very bad feeling. It cost me some pains to make it to the phone. Hello? I sounded terribly groggy. Nikolai, you are in great danger. You need to be extremely careful, a voice said in Russian. I was still half asleep, so I couldn't really understand what was going on. What? Who is this? I repeat, be extremely careful. Pay particular attention to what you are doing, who you talk to, and what you talk about. The voice sounded unnatural, as though the speaker had pressed a cloth against the receiver. Who is this? What do you want? Was it you who left the note? You've been warned. Beeping. Now? I was really scared. Should I call the police? And what would I say? An ordinary school kid of no interest to anyone, a note, and a telephone call, it all added up to a prank. However, the first thing I did was to lock all the doors and unplug the phone. It could be a prank, but then who was the prankster? Michael wouldn't do it, and Kyosuke, it wouldn't even cross his mind. And why did all this start just as Catherine returned to Japan? Even if she didn't write the note. I pulled the blanket over my head. Sleep refused to come, but the fear eventually subsided a bit. I told myself that I would try to sort all this out tomorrow with a fresher head. Here we go, day 3. September 9th, 1987. I woke up late. The time was already past noon. The house was quiet. Too quiet, really. I had missed school again. Oh well, to hell with it. After all, my life was now in the balance. Or was I being overly dramatic? I walked into the kitchen and stood there in a stupor. My head felt heavy. Thoughts jumbled together. I wanted to sleep a little longer, say another 10 hours or so. A glass of cold water helped bring me back to life. I looked at myself in the mirror. Oddly enough, the black eye was gone. I checked all the doors and windows, all locked securely, the way I had left them the night before. The foyer contained a note from Himitsu. I was worried, blah blah, we'll come by after school, more blah blah blah. Thank you, but no thank you. This must have been the first time in my 18 years alive that I faced a situation like this. The move to Japan at an early age, the challenges of adaptation, the deaths of my parents. All these had been tough, but they seemed more like fate than the result of someone's malicious actions. This time was different. Something was threatening me directly. Someone was warning, cautioning me, sincerely or not, but who could possibly take such an interest in me? That's when I had an epiphany. It did seem improbable that I personally could attract any notice, but perhaps this was about my parents. They did, after all, emigrate from the USSR and work for the Kobayashi Corporation. Besides, the voice on the phone yesterday was Russian. Altered for sure, but clearly unaccented. I didn't know the exact nature of my parents' work, but it could very well have been of the serious sort. A lump formed in my throat. The sort of work one could get killed for. The most frustrating thing was that I knew nothing about it, except who was going to believe me. I had to act fast. I pulled out my dad's old address book and started scanning it for the numbers of his coworkers. A few I'd met, some I'd heard of. In any case, anything was better than sitting and waiting. Good afternoon, my name is Nikolai Anokin, and no luck with the first dozen numbers. Some people were no longer at their old jobs. Others didn't pick up. One person had even passed away. I turned the page. There was a number written in my father's firm, even hand, and underneath it a name. Ichinose-san. Ichinose. I'd heard that last name before. Long ringtones. 1, 2... After 10, I was about to hang up when a familiar elderly voice sounded on the other end. Hello? At that point, I remembered. This Ichinose-san used to visit frequently when I was younger. The ever-polite, affable, good-humored old gentleman. He used to bring me candy and ask me with interest about school and my hobbies. Then he and Dad would sit together in the garden for long stretches of time and, with an air of importance, do a lot of smoking and conversing together. Good afternoon, my name is Nikolai Anokin, and Oh, Nikolai-kun, he interrupted. Long time no see, how are things? Fine. I gave a stock answer. Was I supposed to dump everything at once on him? All that had been befallen me in the last few days? I'm sorry about your parents. The voice in the receiver turned sad. I vaguely recalled seeing Ichinose-san at the funeral. Thank you. Actually, that's why I called. I mean, not literally, of course. For a moment I remained silent. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Could you please tell me about my father's work? I know he worked as an engineer, but what exactly did he work on? Did something happen? Why do you suddenly want to know, now of all times? Tell the truth, something did happen, but it doesn't matter. Why not? Can't you tell me? Yes, of course I could, but it's just, what reasons did I actually have to trust him? Just because he'd been over to our house a couple times and had been nice to me? I think this is supposed to be Ichinose speaking instead of Nikolai, so that's another little error. So are you going to tell me or not? Is this really some kind of secret? Oh no, wait, it is. I did mess it up. My bad. Not a secret, no, but it's somewhat complicated. I get that it's complicated. I'm no longer a child, I spouted back. So what happened? Some people came by and asked questions about my father, about his work. I lied. Asked about his work, did they? Ichinose stretched out the words ambiguously. And what exactly did they ask? I don't know. I mean, I didn't tell them anything because I didn't know anything myself. And how were they asking? What do you mean? Well, what was the tone? Now I was absolutely certain that Ichinose knew far more than he was letting on. What's more, Ichinose seemed apprehensive. Should I be worried? That's for you to know, he replied coldly. If I knew anything, I wouldn't be calling you, right? Nikolai, you shouldn't drag yourself into this. Why? Do you know something? Tell me. This concerns me too, you know. No, this does not, in fact, concern you. And if you lay low, everything will be all right. But that's all I'm going to say. Don't call here again. Short ringtones now. Everything will be all right. Yeah, sure it will. On the other hand, I could at least thank him for indirectly confirming my suspicions. This was indeed about my father. I collected my thoughts and tried to remember everything my father had ever told me about his job. An engineer. And what do engineers do? Build stuff, or more accurately, draw up plans. God, what does a 16-year-old kid care about such minutiae? What had mattered to me was that I received my allowance, and that was all well at home. I was certain about one thing. My father had not worked in construction as such. Defense, maybe? Had he worked for the military? What difference did that make? I still didn't know a thing about his actual work. Unless the whole thing was someone's sick practical joke. The hour hand on the clock moved inexorably towards 3, and I hadn't even eaten breakfast yet. Himitsu would arrive soon. The note made that clear. Enough already. She wasn't my mother, after all. Of course, as I had that thought, I felt sheepish. Regardless, I absolutely had to get some fresh air. I don't think a bar is where you get fresh air. It usually smells like stale cigarette smoke. I decided to go to my favorite bar for lunch. I actually think I'm going to stop this part here. This seems like a decent stopping point. It's definitely getting very intriguing. I want to know what's going on next. We only got a small taste of the music, you know, the rock and roll part of the title, but I'm hoping there's more to it as we go on. The storyline is definitely getting very intriguing. I'm very curious to see where it goes from here, both just with this threat on Nikolai, as well as just with the people he goes to school with. There's a lot going on, and I can't blame him for feeling a little frustrated. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, make sure to give a big thumbs up, and please subscribe and hit that notification button. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.